Welcome to Intentionalist podcast. I'm your host, Coach Alice. This is a podcast, a platform that I created to inspire, motivate women to live an intentional life. Today's episode is going to talk about menopause and beyond. What affects us women when we are there's this monster called menopause. When we are growing up, we heard about our aunties. No, she's not moody, she's just menopausal. Or when we are in our roller coaster feeling mode, we feel like, oh, she's menopausing. Today we are going to discuss more about menopause. Is it a predictable stage? And what are the predictable measures we can take for us to transition into menopause gracefully? What are the signs? What are the measures that we need to take as women who live an intentional life? Today's guest is a coach who intentionally chose to bring awareness on perimenopause, menopause, and post-menopause care and guidance to women who are in their transition phase. So today's episode is going to focus more on discussing largely on menopause, signs and prevention, and ways to accompany ourselves in a graceful manner. Welcome to this episode, Coach Amina.
Thank you, Coach Alice, for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Thank you so much for honoring our invitation. You are a person who has been championing for menopause and perimenopause, post-menopause wellness. Mm-hmm. Before we go into that, can you tell our listeners who you are and why championing for that particular season?
Yes, thank you, Coach Alice. So, Amina Farrah, I am a menopause coach, a menopause advocate and speaker. Mm-hmm. And I say I'm the founder of FAB.U.LAS Living.
Yes, Fabulous Living.
Which is a menopause knowledge and awareness platform. Mm-hmm. So the platform was created for this knowledge and awareness to end menopause shame, suffering, and the stigma around it.
Yes.
So I found that people were not really talking about menopause. And this was all inspired by my own journey. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize that I'd already gone through menopause. I went through premature menopause. So during COVID, I say this is my COVID gift. You know, I was in the restaurant business. I was an entrepreneur, was running 3 restaurants at one point.
Yes.
And so when COVID came, I just got an opportunity to sit, pause, and I had more time to read and look at things. And then I was seeing more information starting to come out about, because I've always been interested in women's health and wellness. You know, I was a fitness instructor. I studied nutrition. It was something I did alongside my career when I was a lawyer, when I worked in finance.
Yes.
And then even when I became an entrepreneur, I wanted to do women's health and wellness. But it was about 12 years ago when I came back home. And I think it was a bit early. I saw that, you know, maybe wasn't the right time. So I took a detour into the restaurant business, and now here COVID comes, I have an opportunity again to go into women's health and wellness. And I found that menopause was what we needed to talk about, because it's kind of in our sexual and reproductive life and health, it is part of the journey.
Yes,
you know, we have puberty, then we have, you know, our fertility journey through marriage, motherhood, or even if you're not married.
Your fertile season.
Your fertility. And then we have menopause.
Yes.
And we are going to live up to half of our lives in post-menopause.
Yeah, true.
So I learned this, and then I learned a lot of information, which we'll get into, which was, why are we not telling women about this transition? It's such an important transition. It's the last reproductive transition, because it's the end of our reproductive cycle. And there are things we need to do for our health and wellness, and things that we may need to change to kind of embrace longevity in this new phase of our life. So it was really, motivated by the fact that I was unaware. I didn't know. No single doctor ever told me that I went through menopause. And I was like, we need to stop. And then I realized there's a shame. There's a stigma about talking about menopause.
It, yeah.
And I think part of it is, you know,
culture-oriented.
Cultural. Women are, you know, seen as their fertility is very important.
Yes.
And especially
Oh,
in African
yes.
society, right? Your part of you is your fertility. You're
Yes.
going to have children.
Yes.
And
You're not a
then
whole package if
Yes.
that is not there.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of pressure
Yes.
to have children, I think, in African society, because I think even women who have fertility issues, it's such a struggle. It's such a shame they don't want to talk about it
Yes.
because there's that pressure.
Yes.
So this is related to your fertility and menopause being the end of that. I think people are like, I'm not going to talk about it. But I think also aging.
Yes, true.
You know, like we have to embrace the fact that we're aging.
We are aging.
Right?
And
So maybe women are not ready to say, okay, if I say I'm menopausal or I'm in menopause, that means I'm old.
yes.
But we are.
Yeah, we
Aging.
are. Yes, true.
Yeah.
I agree. So would you like to tell our listeners different stages of menopause?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the word menopause is actually like an umbrella term.
Yes.
That's the way I look at it. And menopause itself is the day when you have not had your menstrual cycle for 12 consecutive months. So 12 months and a day. I like to throw the day in. You can
12
say,
months and a day.
yes.
Yes.
So if you have not had your period consecutively, 12
Yes.
months and that day or plus a day, you've hit menopause officially, which is when your ovarian function has ceased or has ended.
Yes.
Because your ovarian function has ended, your periods end also. Okay, and we could talk about, you know, like women are born with the same number, a certain number of eggs, and then as they, you know, as we age, we lose those eggs until menopause, when now you're no longer going to be producing any eggs. The period leading up to menopause, so that's why I say it's an umbrella term, is called perimenopause, not premenopause, perimenopause. And I
Yes.
want to distinguish this because I see a lot of people using those two
Confuse
words.
peri and pre, yeah.
They use it interchangeably.
Yeah.
Premenopause is before you hit perimenopause, when your fertility is, you know, probably at its prime. So a woman in her 20s, presumably her 30s, will be premenopausal. Then you hit perimenopause, the transition phase, which can take anywhere from 2 to 10 years, depending on the woman. And what happens in
2 to 10 years.
Yes, of your life.
In what are the clinical signs that
Yes.
define perimenopause?
So in the perimenopause is now you start to notice certain changes in your body, because what's happening is our hormones are starting to decline.
Yes.
So the two main sex hormones for women are estrogen and progesterone. And these are the two, if you know a normal cycle, right? Like the period or your normal 28-day cycle, you basically have your estrogen rising up till ovulation.
Yeah. To the
0 to 14.
Yes.
Then you release your egg, and then your estrogen goes down, and then now your progesterone goes up into your luteal phase to prepare your uterus for if you're going to have a baby, and if not, then it sheds the layer. So those two hormones are very important, and we all understand them in our 28-day cycle. Well, now, because when we were growing up, we also didn't understand much about it.
Yeah,
right?
we did not.
We didn't talk much about periods.
Yeah, yes.
So we understand that now. So now I think it's at menopause's turn.
Yes.
For people to start to understand what is happening. So during this perimenopause is when your estrogen and your progesterone start to change. And with estrogen, it's a bit tricky because it doesn't go down like this. Estrogen actually fluctuates a lot during perimenopause.
Yes.
This 2 to 10 year phase, depending on your personal journey, you know, because every woman's
So that
journey
is like predictively between, let's say, if you have started early, we can start by, say, 28, 27,
I'd like to say from the mid 30s.
mid 30s.
Because, okay, let's backtrack. So the average age of menopause is 51,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
So you have that window, 51, 52.
Yes.
Even though they're showing that women of color tend to go through menopause a bit earlier, maybe around 49.
Yes.
Okay. So backtrack 10 years, it's about 40,
40,
41,
yes.
if you're using the average age, which
Yeah.
is the kind of like the global standard.
Yes.
But if you use the standard for women of color, then we're going down to about 39, 10
Yes.
years.
Yes.
But I would say any woman over 35 should
Yes.
start paying attention, but more so over 40.
Yes.
Start paying attention to the changes she may be experiencing. And some of these changes women don't know are actually perimenopause. So let me tell you some of this.
Which will lead me to the next question.
Yes.
What are the signs that can you pinpoint and say, this could be a perimenopausal phase?
Okay.
Yeah.
So a very popular one, but not necessarily though, is the change in your periods. Okay. So women could start experiencing irregular periods or very heavy periods, you know, and the heavy periods usually come because, as I explained, estrogen does this up and down thing.
Yeah.
Progesterone is declining kind of more steady. So in periods when your estrogen is going up and down relative to progesterone, you might have what's called estrogen dominance. So you have more estrogen than progesterone to balance, and that's when women tend to have that heavy cycle, you know, maybe like severe PMS, headaches, migraines, so the crime scene periods, because it's like you never really had heavy periods, all of a sudden your periods are super heavy.
Yes.
That could be one. And then, or irregular periods.
Yes.
Now, outside of periods, and I don't like women to, I like to tell women, your period going could be the last thing.
Yes.
There are other things that happen
Yes.
that would give you a clue that you're going through perimenopause. So when you ask me about the symptoms, I like to think of them in like 3 buckets. There's like the mental, emotional, psychological symptoms,
Yes.
which are related to your brain.
Yes.
Then there's the physical, which is your body. And then the genitourinary. It's part of physical, but it's specific to your genitourinary or, you know, your uterus, your urinary tract. So some of the symptoms for mental, emotional, psychological, women could start experiencing anxiety, brain fog, which means
yes, that's the biggest.
brain fog where you're just like all of a sudden you can't focus.
Yes.
You may have some memory difficulties. You like start losing words, names of things that you would very easily come to you. I say difficulty finding words.
Confuse your own children.
Is this happening?
Yeah, it is.
Coach Alice.
It is.
Yeah. So this thing of loss of words, memory difficulties where you go to a room and you don't remember why you came in there. This is a very classic symptom. Many women say this. Lack of focus, so brain fog. Anxiety is newfound anxiety. Like you just have a heightened level of anxiety about some things and you never really were that way.
Yes.
Some women report depression.
Yes.
You know, so sleep disruptions.
Yes. Oh, yes. True.
So disturbed sleep, it could be sleep. You go to bed, you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, you can't fall back to sleep, and then you're falling asleep in the morning just before your alarm goes off.
Yes, true.
That's disturbed sleeping or poor sleep. Or just insomnia where you can't fall asleep, right? So those are related to the brain.
To the brain, yes.
But physical symptoms, hot flashes. But it's also coming, by the way, from the brain because it's your brain that sends the signal about regulating your body temperature. But we feel them more on a physical level. Hot flashes. Hot flashes is the celebrity of menopause. Everybody, when you...
the celebrity of menopause. Because I like that.
Do you not think that people think menopause, they only think hot flashes?
Yes, true. I do that because I know that's something we get to know even when we were children. There is that auntie who always comes, it's too hot.
Yes.
Open the windows.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So but I always say menopause is more than hot flashes, right?
Yeah.
There's so many other things we need to understand it's beyond that. So hot flashes is definitely there. And at night, they're called night sweats.
Yes.
Like when you go to bed and it's super hot, you're throwing the duvet off and then you cool off, you throw your duvet on and then you throw it off again. So this can also create disturbed sleep.
Yes, it does.
So they're related, right?
Yes, they are.
Other kind of physical would be heart palpitations.
Yes.
You know, some women report heart palpitations. I think if anybody remembers when Oprah was speaking about menopause, I believe it was early last year, she mentioned how she had heart palpitations, went to her doctor, went to cardiologist, went to 5 different doctors before somebody was like, no, it's actually just menopause.
Yes.
It's not, you don't have a heart
You
problem.
don't have a cardiologic clinical problem.
You did ECG, you did EKG, you did everything, but you're fine. So I think becoming aware of some of these, so that's physical, but then also dry skin, dry
Yes.
hair,
Yes.
brittle nails, itchy
Yes.
skin.
Yeah.
Those are also related to perimenopause and menopause. And then the genitourinary ones that people don't like to talk about.
Yes.
It's kind of like the one where, let's talk about it behind
In
closed
head,
doors,
yes.
is things like vaginal dryness and
Yes.
atrophy.
Yes, atrophy.
Increased urinary tract infections, UTIs, just increased infections or yeast infections, incontinence.
Yes. Yes.
Nobody talks about this.
Yes.
Women are getting older,
Yes.
and they have to wear like
They
pads
dance.
or diapers. Oh, but even as you get even older,
Yes.
or they're just running to the bathroom quite a
Yes,
lot.
yeah.
So
Low libido.
low libido,
Yeah,
yes, painful sex,
Yes.
irritation, dryness,
Yes, yeah.
itchiness. So those are some also. So why? Because estrogen is going down,
Yes.
and estrogen is so important for the human body. So we have estrogen receptors all over our body, from our head to our feet. That's why it affects us that way. Our skin, our nails, our hair, our eyes, even dry eyes. Some women get dry eyes.
Yes.
Even dry ear or itchy ears. Now there's also what's called the musculoskeletal syndrome of menopause, which is now the things related to joint pains,
Yes.
joint stiffness,
Yes.
frozen shoulder, achy back.
Yeah.
Yeah, those
the
are all
stiffness. Yeah.
the stiffness. It's like you felt like you were well oiled, and now you feel like you're kind of dry and stiff, right?
You're becoming robot.
Because the estrogen receptors
Yeah.
are everywhere,
Yeah,
and also
true.
in your joints.
Yes.
So that's more of like the physical manifestation of loss of estrogen in your body. So I think for me, why part of the reason I really started talking about this, when you asked me why in my personal journey, is when I started reading about it, and I realized that estrogen is so important for your brain, your heart, your bones, and your urogenital. Okay,
System.
urogenital or genitourinary. You can
Yes,
use the words
yes,
interchangeably.
yeah.
So important for your genitourinary area. It's like, why are women not being told this?
Yeah, I think this is a very, very good point that I really would love you to emphasize on, because we always want to relate estrogen with reproduction,
Yes.
not any other functionality,
longevity.
not longevity, not performance when
Yes.
it comes to brain performance,
Correct.
when it comes to creativity. And what are the way a woman in her high performance stage, that is a woman who is employed, a woman who is running an hour business,
Yes.
should be aware to have a prepared transitioning menopause, as you are also on your entrepreneur journey. Many people shift from their work to start business in their 30s, in their 20s and all that. And there is this huge amount of stress that comes with it and affects our performance, our brain level. Can you talk about that, how it's important?
It's important because at the time that, yes, this transition is happening in our, for most women, it's between 40s and 50s, right?
Yes.
I do want to mention that it can happen also prematurely, like it did for me,
Yes.
or early. So women who go through it before the age of 40, it's premature menopause. They're saying it's about 1% of the population. Women who go through it before the age of 45, it's considered early menopause, which is about 5% of the population. But I want to challenge these numbers because I think this is based on data that was, we need to revisit. Because
that are collected from a group of people who have that awareness.
Yes.
There are many undetected cases.
Yes.
From people who don't even have that awareness.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think
I agree.
As we speak more about menopause and learn more about it, and more research and data is done, then we'll be able to look at these numbers, and one of the things I always say, and I'm going to segue to this before I come back to your question, is I think the reason why maybe perimenopause was not really even spoken or taught a lot in medical school, even doctors are not taught much about it.
Yes, true.
And many doctors now don't even know how, they don't look at women through the lens of, this woman is going through perimenopause, this woman is going through menopause, how do I help care for her with this awareness that she's losing her estrogen, instead of just telling her, but you're getting old. Like if a woman goes to the doctor, my joints, my knees are hurting.
Or to keep prescribing calcium supplement.
Yes, go get this supplement.
Yeah.
But you're getting old. This is normal.
Yes.
And I'm saying it's not necessarily normal. It is, it is normal. It's natural.
Yeah.
But there are things we can do beyond.
Yes.
Because we are living longer, we are working longer. Menopause is a natural transition. I don't say it is not. But let's give the information and have more awareness and things we can do to help our longevity in this phase where we have less estrogen in our body, progesterone, and even testosterone. I don't spend too much time talking about testosterone because I'm still getting women to accept estrogen and progesterone, but we also lose testosterone, especially post-menopause.
Post-menopause.
Yeah.
Looking back to this woman in her high peak of her career,
yes.
This we are speaking between 35 and
55.
And 50. And
even
55. We are CEOs, high business owners, women who have high and heavy schedules and who are handling a lot when it comes to professional mandates.
Yes.
And when you look at their health palette as well, they are handling a lot of chaos internally.
Yeah.
How does that internal chaos affect our productivity and our well-being out there in the world?
Well, for the menopause transition, I'm going to speak about it in that context.
Yes.
Is stress only amplifies those the symptoms that you may be feeling and the difficulty of the transition, and women really need to look at stress management. And actually the way I say what women need to do is they need to look at their whole lifestyle, right? How they eat, how they move, sleep, supplementation, stress management. That is such an important piece of all of it, because I also, in many ways, I always say the word menopause. There's pause in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, pause.
And the pause is like pause. And
in real life.
In real life, pause and see what's working and what's not working for you. We had that conversation. That this whole busy is the new sexy, where people are doing a lot of things and
side hustle.
Yes. And this thing of not creating time for rest. I think we're actually talking about rest. How sometimes women don't take rest as an important part of their life.
Yes.
As
a productive task.
Correct.
Yes.
Because we're so busy doing, we are not giving ourselves time for just being.
Yes.
Yes. And we need to rest and we need to be in the being. And, I shared with you the affirmation that I've been sharing lately. I'm worthy even when I do nothing.
Yes.
For women to understand, your worth is not tied to you always being busy
your
and
tasks.
Always doing something. But that's how we've been brought up, right?
Yes, true.
And women have been socialized. They take care of the house, they take care of work, they take care of the children, their parents, we're in this age in between 40 and 50s when we're going through the transition, and I say a lot of women are in the sandwich generation. They have parents who need help.
Yes.
Then they have children. It could be teenagers, it could be young children, and they're like in the middle. So it's like the sandwich where your responsibilities are coming from both sides.
From both up and down, and then within yourself.
And work, right?
Yeah.
So I think the key is really trying to find that balance. And I think this is why this conversation also really belongs in the workplace. And I'll just segue into that because if organizations or companies are understanding their talent, their women who are in this 40 to 50, 55, I'll say, age group, are most affected by this a natural transition that's happening to them, that's affecting how they show up to work.
Their productivity, their results, their conversion rate.
Correct. Their focus, their productivity. There are some women who just don't feel like themselves anymore. They don't recognize.
I don't know if you have noticed also on the statistics, that is when we notice many women in this age group will resign.
Yes.
And will divorce.
Yes.
Because they did not find a better way of delivering whatever mandate they have while at that thing.
Yes. I mean, statistically, they're
Yes.
showing that 1 in 5 women leave their jobs because they're struggling through menopause and they don't feel supported and they just can't handle it.
Yes.
Right? And a friend of mine, I was telling her this statistic, and she said,
One
only
in-
1 in 5. She said, are you sure the number is not higher? And I said, I don't know. That's what's being
That's
reported
still
now.
high.
But
1 in 5.
yeah, it's
a
20%.
big number.
Yeah?
Yes.
So
Remember, again, when we are in those age, when
Yeah.
senior management, statistics for women is very minimal. It's like 20 to 30%
Yes.
in senior management. So
Yes.
if in those 20%, still 1 to 5 resign,
Yeah.
then the statistics are really alarming.
yeah, 1 in 5 women are quitting
Yeah.
because they feel overwhelmed.
Yes.
They don't share, and some women don't want to share because they also feel like their skills will be questioned, their
Yes.
abilities. So some women are like, okay, this could also be an ageism issue. Like,
They suppress that
yeah,
need.
I don't
yeah,
want people to question my abilities.
to deliver.
And I say I'm struggling through menopause, and then they're going to say, well, you're over 50, maybe we should be looking for somebody younger. So it's also a bit complex. That's why
Yes.
I feel like it's important for companies to say, okay, like I've spoken to several corporate companies in Kenya. We've done World Menopause Day, we've done women in leadership events about understanding menopause. And the women in leadership, it's important because these women are the leaders.
Yes.
They're the ones who are going to go through
Who
this.
can initiate the change as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who is going to initiate the change and, sensitize the leadership and say, let's support our women, because if diversity and inclusion is part of your mandate, you need to include the women who are over 40 and over 50 because
Yes.
they're in your workspace.
Yes.
Yes, in Africa, Kenya, we have a larger percentage of younger people and smaller, but let's support the women who are there now because that's the talent. They're going to pass on the knowledge, share the knowledge with the younger generation. And then when we implement policies that help women in the workplace, including menopause, then we're also laying the foundation for the younger women who are coming, like the millennials.
Yes.
They're going to be hitting perimenopause soon.
Yes, they are.
Gen Xers.
Yes.
Are you technically a millennial or you're a Gen X? You're the tail end. You're like cusp.
I'm 43, so I'm a millennial.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're the generation entering
Yes.
perimenopause.
Yes.
My generation, the Generation Xers,
Yes.
we are
Already
now
in
in
the
menopause.
menopause full time.
Well, actually, women are probably going through it now. I went
Yes.
through it like a decade earlier. So
Yes.
at 53 now, I should be going through menopause.
Pause.
Yes.
This is a 53 figure, please.
Thank you, Coach Alice. But this is when I should be going through. Between 49, 50, 51, 50, women are here. But so I'm saying this is the talent, the leadership, the C-suite women, the directors, the women who have risen to the top of their careers in corporate settings, business owners.
Yes.
This is when you're being impacted
Yes.
by this change. So I remember in my mid-40s, just struggling, right? I owned a business. I told you I built 1, 2, 3. Stress was really high, and it
yes.
really made my symptoms even worse, like anxiety, some moments of depression, not feeling like myself, like weight gain, especially belly fat. And I was like, what's going on? My body's changing.
That can also, I think, even accelerate your menopause journey. You age quickly,
Stress.
quickly.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Oh, I forgot to throw in the symptoms.
Yes.
Weight gain, belly
Yes,
fat. It's a
yes,
big one.
yes.
And we should say it because, our esteem is connected to how
To
we
the
feel
body,
and
how
how we look. So if if your body is changing and you're not happy with it, it can affect your esteem. And there's nothing wrong with acknowledging.
Yes.
That, yes, this happens and it's okay for us to be like, oh no, I need to deal with the weight. So weight gain is an important one that I
that you forgot
didn't
to
mention, and I should have belly fat. So, yes, going back to how it's a matter of managing stress, managing lifestyle, pausing, looking at what we really need to do and what we really don't need to do. I find a lot of women in this phase now have learned to start to say no, better boundaries. But then also, are you exercising? Are you walking? We're definitely advocating strength training because it helps with the muscle, your bones, because your bones are so important. And as you lose estrogen, your bones become weaker. You can
Yes.
get osteoporosis.
Yes.
So support from employers, and as a business owner, taking time for yourself, but really it's lifestyle, and then you can also look at hormone therapy if you're interested.
Yes, true.
Yes.
Looking at the statistics as we were discussing about it, at what age can someone know that, okay, this is menopause, this is post-menopause?
Okay, good question. So remember the definition of menopause is when you had not had your periods for 12 consecutive months.
Yes.
After that day you hit menopause. Every time after that you're postmenopausal.
Yes.
So I'm a postmenopausal woman now, right? Living, meaning you don't have a period anymore and your hormones have declined, your estrogen, your progesterone, eventually your testosterone. So you're living in this new reality with a body that doesn't have the main, I say the magical hormone, estrogen.
When a woman doesn't have estrogen, does that mean to the level that it can be productive in the body, does that mean she can't produce, she can't make children? Does that mean, will she ever enjoy sex ever? Because sometimes people think that when you hit menopause, you're that annoying partner that will never enjoy sex again.
Okay, so two different questions, but I'll address both.
Yeah.
So yes, after menopause, your ovarian function has ceased.
Yes.
So, and it is your ovaries that produces the estrogen called estradiol.
Yes.
So estradiol is the one that your body stops producing. Okay. There's another form of estrogen that's produced in your fat cells, which we still have.
Yes.
And I don't know if more information will come out of it. And I always question, you know,
that
getting belly fat. Is it like your body is giving you a bit of estrogen in the fat cells, also helping you to have some type of estrogen? But the estradiol, which is the one from our ovaries, is the one that we have lost completely.
That is what leads to fertility.
That's
fertility. But that is not what is needed for sexual pleasure.
But it's needed in your urogenital area.
Yes.
Yeah. So I would say, you know, sexual pleasure is a couple of things. There's the brain, like how you desire, you know, from your brain. And then there's the physical, right? So many women report loss of libido, but I believe it's part of that whole, you're in the transition, you're just not feeling like yourself.
Yes, true.
Your body is changing.
There's a lot of changes happening.
Yeah, and you're not interested. It's getting a bit drier down there. So I know that things like localized estrogen, which is estrogen in your, you know, you apply localized, meaning to the vaginal area, has been very helpful for many women.
Yes.
Right? And it can help even maintain, you know, deal with dryness. It can, and the atrophy. So you have like, you know, you're able to keep it more moist and active. And if you do the localized vaginal estrogen, it doesn't go to the rest of your body.
No, it doesn't.
So one of the concerns about hormone therapy is there was a big media scare in 2002 after this study called the World Health Initiative that says hormone replacement therapy causes cancer.
Yes, I have even those all shots. I've heard of those, and there's too much stigma and debates around that. Yeah.
So there was a big scare that even doctors, this is 2002, 2002, they even stopped women who are already on hormone therapy. They were told, no, stop, it causes cancer. The good news is now that they've gone back and revisited that study, and there are more people looking at hormone therapy, and actually it's been found to be very beneficial for women, but it's something you should go and see your doctor about. I'm on hormone replacement therapy or hormone therapy. For me, it has been amazing. I think it helps with energy, you know, it just helps me feel like myself. It helps with so many things. Some of the symptoms, but more so the brain related symptoms, the issue of sleep, the issue of memory difficulties, concentration, brain,
anger management,
mood swings.
Mood swing. One thing that really happens a lot in perimenopause and menopause and stress is mood swings. And if you are on hormone therapy, it really helps a lot.
It helps. It really, because now you're getting some of that estrogen, which is the, you know, the master regulator of your brain. And this is the thing, when I found out, I was like, why are we not talking about this? And I love Dr. Lisa Mosconi. She's a neuroscientist, and she's, you know, when I started learning about menopause a couple of years ago before people were talking much about it. I see now in the last couple of years there's been a lot more conversation, more people coming out on social media, and it's great.
Yes.
But I remember coming across Dr. Lisa Mosconi, and she wrote a book called The XX Brain.
Yes.
You know, where the double X
Yes.
chromosome. And she was like, estrogen is the master regulator of the female brain. And because women were not used in research until the 90s, do you know this? In medical research, women were excluded until 1993.
I didn't know.
Yes. So what was happening is studies were being done on men, and then they would say, okay, let's now apply this on the female body. If it's medicine, we'll just give them less. So we're being treated like small men.
Yes.
But our body is hormonally different.
Yes.
Completely hormonally different, right?
Yes.
So
which really need a different whole approach. Yeah.
So she calls this bikini medicine.
Yes.
It's like we are a male, our bodies, or we're treated like men, except we have
Bikini,
breasts and a vagina.
Yeah.
So like what you cover in the bikini. So it was called bikini medicine.
Yes.
So she was very interested in looking at the female brain more so because her grandmother and her grandmother's sisters got Alzheimer's.
Yes.
And she was like, okay, what's with this Alzheimer's? She's like, is it something that my mother is going to get? Am I going to get it? So when she started doing scans and studying the female brain, she realized estrogen is such an important hormone for the female brain. And you can see the brain starting to change during menopause.
Yeah, it does.
100%. So I was like, whoa. Hold up. The world needs to know this because it's changing who you are in a way.
It's not only affecting us.
It's not just a hot flash.
Yes, it's more even on the brain, on the concentration level, on the productivity, creativity. Yes. Oh, wow. And
the statistics are showing by 2025, there'll be 1 billion women going through menopause. Okay?
We really need proper support.
I saw that with the Canadian Menopause Society. Another statistic was saying by 2030, but that's
what are the statistics on the sub-Saharan community?
So now this is the thing, is that we don't have enough data. And part of my mission around FAB.U.LAS Living is I want us to collect data on African women, and I want us to be able to tell our own stories as African women. So I did a small survey in 2022, when I was starting to talk about menopause, and I surveyed about 260 women.
Yes.
My goal is to do much more. And of that group of women that I studied, I wanted to know if women were aware about perimenopause, menopause, and what are their top symptoms, right? And let me just tell you briefly, 74% of the women in the survey, it was weight gain, belly fat, or fat in the upper body. 74%. And then the next one, which was about 68, was related to the brain, right? Like brain fog, anxiety, depression, lack of focus, not feeling like myself, those kind of related memory loss. Then the third one was joint pain, muscle pains, like their joints and everything. Then the fourth was related to sleep, disturbed sleep, poor sleep. And only number 5 was hot flushes. In the African context.
Yes.
So I found that interesting because I kind of really want to compare with
the Western world.
The Western, where I feel like hot flashes is more of an issue there, and
because we live in a tropical climate zone, maybe
our body is more used.
It's more used to regulated temperature inwardly.
Could be. So there's still a lot of space to collect information on the numbers in Africa, and again, remember also, I think
does that lack of data translate to lack of knowledge, lack of awareness?
Yes. I think part of it is that, yes. I think, so I think the shame about talking about it and the stigma is really high. That even when I started talking about it a couple of years ago, people would be like, why are you talking about menopause? And I'm like, it's important. We're all going to go through it. Yeah. And a lot of what I would hear people say, I'm not there yet. And these are women in their 40s.
Exactly. And this is what we do selectively, especially when we were in our 40s. You want to get your finances together. You want to get your career together, or you want to get your business running. You want to have the clarity that you need toward the next step that is going to help you make moves that are going to help you excel.
Yes.
You want to get clarity on your relationship. Some even go to determine whether you have 2 or 3, 4 children. So you are very strict, but rarely we are very intentional on how to enter into our menopause.
Yes.
It was very new, not only to myself, and I believe to many listeners, to know that there are actually menopause coaches who help people to transition through menopause, perimenopause, menopause, and then post-menopause. Can you talk about the kind of support you envision to give busy women and women who really want to live intentionally and have a fabulous 53 like her? Look at her. Just look at her. Ooh.
Coach Alice.
It's just that you cannot stand and, do a flip to them and say, this is a 53, yeah? Look at that.
Cartwheel. I'm doing cartwheels now in yoga. But which, were difficult at some point. But anyway, for me, I decided to become also a menopause coach because I want to help the women who are struggling through perimenopause and menopause.
Yes.
On a higher level, providing the information and awareness is very important part of my mission.
Yes.
To get women to understand this is a real thing.
Yes.
We're all going to go through it. I always say every woman is going to go through menopause. There's no negotiating out of it.
Yes.
Period. It's not.
There's no shortcut. There's no easy way out.
Some women are gonna breeze through it.
Yeah.
But some women are gonna struggle, and the numbers and statistics are showing more women are gonna struggle than those breezing through it. Right.
Honestly.
So if you're looking at a group of women, I think I saw the statistic recently. 90% of women who were surveyed. This is done by an Irish woman who runs also a menopause platform.
Yes.
Information kind of hub, and she said of the women they surveyed, 90% had no idea about really what going through menopause means. They didn't have sufficient information.
Yes.
Of that, 30% didn't have any issues. So these are women who are going through menopause.
Yes.
And 60% were struggling.
Yes.
So the number was quite high, and I say, the ones who admit that they're going through it and are saying, hey, listen, I'm struggling. I need help. So as a coach, I'm there. I want to help the women who are struggling through it. Like when I struggled through it, when I didn't recognize myself, when I felt like I was going crazy, when it was a lonely journey, when I was avoiding social interactions because I was like, what's going on? My body is changing. I don't feel like me. I don't want to be in social settings. Like isolation is part of it.
Yes, because you're having those mood swings. You don't even know if you are becoming something else, unpredictable.
And affects your relationships. How many relationships are affected during this transition when, you're going through your anger, mood swings, crying, whatever it could be. Your partner, husband, partner is impacted. Your children are impacted. Your co-workers are impacted.
Your family members, maybe, and friends.
Yeah, that's why I say menopause is important because it impacts everybody. Society,
it does.
Work, relationships, the family. It does. It can affect how you show up as a woman. So helping those women who are really struggling and also giving some education on hormone therapy for women who want to do it. I think every woman should have a choice.
Yes.
I think they should be able to make an informed decision and get the full information. Not just have a doctor say, oh, no, it causes cancer, we're not talking about it. No, that study has been rubbished. There's new information out there.
Yes.
There's a lot of good information showing hormone therapy helps women, especially women in perimenopause, which is the time when a lot of women are working.
Yes.
They're in careers, and they're trying to just get through this. Those who are struggling, it's impacting your quality of life and impacting how you show up at work.
And there is no amount of supplement that can equally. There is no amount of collagen and magnesium that you will ever take that will fill that gap if you don't go the hormone way.
So let me qualify that.
Yes.
Not every woman. There are women who choose to go through menopause naturally without using hormone therapy, and they manage.
Yes, true.
So I'm not saying that you.
No,
must.
I mean when you are not struggling. I'm talking about on the side of those who are struggling.
If you're struggling, but still, there could be some things you do in lifestyle that can help you get past the struggle. So let me
would you share some,
yes.
please? Yeah.
So and by the way, let's not let's not demonize magnesium, because magnesium is very good for women, and especially women going through menopause.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we find women are deficient in magnesium,
Yes.
and magnesium helps over 300 functions in the body.
Yes.
So it helps support your hormones and just chemical processes in your body. And even those women who are struggling with sleep, the big one that everybody is recommending is magnesium glycinate.
Glycinate,
It
yeah.
works for many women.
Yes.
Not everybody, but it does.
Yes.
So I feel like there's a place for supplements. You just have to know which supplements. And you do need to go and check what is your body deficient in. You know, and
Thank
it's
you.
not this
Not
thing of
copying somebody
Correct.
else's strategy, somebody else's curation. Always
Correct.
good to know what works for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because there's that thing called bio-individuality.
Yes.
Your body is uniquely yours. That's why your journey is uniquely yours. Yes, we share symptoms or things that we experience,
Yes.
but we need to find out based on how you eat, based on your stress levels, based on how you live in your environment, what is your body deficient in? What do we need to address? And then stress management, I mentioned to you,
Yes, several
it's like
times.
the kind of like the foundation, you know, of this. And then how you're eating. Are you,
Yes.
eating in ways, are you eating a lot of processed foods?
Yes.
And processed foods are foods that are made, like, not foods that you cook at home, more natural foods. Even wheat, like
Yes.
some people have gluten problems.
Yes.
They don't know that they have an intolerance to gluten and wheat. But
Diary sometime.
some people have problems with dairy as
Yes.
well. So it's understanding, but it's like eating enough protein is very important. Healthy protein, lean protein, eating enough vegetables, eating enough fiber. And the fiber is from like really good whole foods. What does whole foods mean? Like if you're choosing things like, cassava, ugali, chapati, that one is, on the fence.
Yes.
Because it's fried and it's
Yes,
wheat,
yes,
unless you're doing
yeah.
an alternative.
Yeah, true.
But you can eat it. I'm not saying
Yes.
but just not regularly,
Be
right? 'Cause
intentional and
most
moderate.
People, most people
moderate.
bloat.
Yes,
When you
true.
eat chapati, do you get bloated?
No.
Okay,
Well,
many people
I
are-
don't eat it so often.
Okay.
So, no.
Yeah. But eating like, brown rice instead of
Yes,
white rice,
yeah.
like quinoa, like whole flour.
Yes.
Even if you're doing ugali, maybe the brown ugali is
Yes,
better, right?
yeah.
But then really doing vegetables, like multicolored vegetables, like, all the different colored peppers. It's kind of based around this, what they call the Mediterranean diet, where you're eating all sorts of vegetables, different colors, and you're getting what you need,
Yeah,
the
from the
minerals, the
natural food.
antioxidants,
Yeah.
from your diet. And then even greens, eating a lot
Yes.
of the leafy greens are really good for you. Fish, fatty fish, omena, those are really good for you. And so just understanding nutrition is very important. And plant estrogens, I encourage women, and especially, I do plant estrogens as well, or
Yes.
phytoestrogenic foods as they call them, to supplement even if I'm doing hormone therapy.
Yes.
So food, supplementation is important, sleep is important, stress management is important, and exercise.
Yes.
Right? And that's how I support women, is like I would say, let's sit down and see where you are and where you need
Yeah,
to
like
be.
a
And
life evaluation.
Yeah,
of
yeah.
What's your lifestyle?
correct.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, again, this is the time you can pause and say, let me look at my lifestyle. Let me look at what's working, what's not working. Let me set myself up for success, for longevity, for the remainder of my life. It's the second half, the
There's
next
an element
third.
of being intentional in setting a sustainable plan.
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great. So looking at the data still and looking at what is happening and going on in our workspace,
Yes.
what kind of advocacy that would you like to see implemented in the workplace where we see women are just considered as people who are supposed to deliver mandates in order to be acknowledged as leaders? What kind of stigma and bias that need to stop when it comes to menopause in our workspace?
I think it's the ageism part
Yeah.
of that, right? I think it's the fear of ageism. And I think that's why women in workspaces or in corporate or in companies are afraid, because it's like, does that also mean that if I'm saying I'm in menopause, then I'm saying I'm irrelevant?
Yes.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Or that I can't do my job anymore.
Yeah. I can't deliver to the
I
same
can't
extent.
deliver. Yeah, like
Yes.
you're saying, the mandate, right?
Yes.
Like when I've read some of the studies, and it's interesting, it's only in the last couple of years people are actually doing studies. You know, there's where
Because there's a sensitive crisis.
yes, and in the Western world, there's a large percentage of women who are menopausal in
Yes.
the work phase,
Yeah,
in the
true.
in the workforce. It's actually the largest growing demographic in the West
Yes.
of women
In
in
menopause.
menopause, because there's the millennials coming in and the Gen X's. In Africa, there's still we have a higher youth kind of percentage,
Yes.
but we're going to get there also.
Yes, we
you
are.
know?
Especially in those managerial
Correct.
roles.
Yeah. And that's why I even say, like, the UK, they led the revolution in menopause, becoming sensitized to menopause in the workplace. They went to parliament. They did several sessions. So
Yes,
in the
I saw
UK,
that,
there's
yes.
a law that companies and workspaces have to be menopause sensitized, and they
yes.
have to have menopause friendly policies in place.
Yes.
It's part of their HR policies, right? We're not there yet, but
We're not.
we're going to get there. So
We are barely accommodating nursery rooms.
yes, we're
Yeah.
barely like
Yes,
you
having
mean the
nursery rooms,
breastfeeding
the
rooms.
breastfeeding rooms where
Yeah.
people can pump, secure their milk and all that. So, but it is coming. I like the fact that there is awareness.
Yes.
There is this kind of advocacy, the penetration in the community, in the workspace, in the business center, and what you are doing as a coach, but also someone who takes it personally to make it like, I'm doing this campaign.
Yes.
I saw what you did of also using aged, advanced people to showcase beauty in the beauty industry when you did the campaign with Vivo.
Yes.
Over 50 women.
It was the
yes.
age positivity
Yes,
campaign. It was
yes.
women between 45 and 65.
Yes.
We had 30 women. We featured a woman every day
Yes.
between December 13th.
I really
to
loved
yes.
that because it was showing another woman's that we can also model.
Correct.
And we can also show beauty and
Yes.
aging gracefully
Yeah.
without hiding our natural way of aging.
And that was the thing. It's
Yes.
like if part of the reason women don't want to talk about, because we also talked about menopause and perimenopause in
Yes.
that campaign.
Yes.
We taped discussions.
Yes.
If one of the reasons, because I think there's several, one of the reasons why women don't want to admit they're going through menopause or talk about it is because they're worried about aging and that, relevance, and that they're not, if they say they're menopausal or they're in menopause, that they're old, then highlighting positive aging or the age positivity campaign was part of that. Like it was called Fabulous at Any Age.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So from my FAB.U.LAS Living program,
Yes.
and I was so honored that Wandia Gishuru of
Yes,
Vivo
yes.
was like, yes, let's do it.
Yes.
Let's really do this age positivity, highlight these women, talk about menopause, because this is the next phase that we're all going to go through. There should be no shame, no
They should
stigma.
not, yes.
It's a natural part of life.
Yes.
It's a transition we're all going to go through. So this is going to take time. And I'm very happy to be here in the, from the beginning advocating for this change here in Africa, in Kenya, but it's a global issue. A lot of the statistics are global, and I'm hopeful that we're going to have more data for
Our local context.
yes,
yeah.
for Kenya and Africa, because maybe more HR, even getting information about why women leave.
Yes.
I'm sure, well, we know this, people were not asking, are you leaving because of, it could be performance, but somebody who now
What is
understands.
affecting your low performance, yes.
Somebody who now has been educated on menopause and perimenopause, understanding the effects, can now be like, okay, that performance is probably related to the transition.
Lack of support.
Lack of support, not getting, lack
A
of support.
friendly environment
Correct,
that allows them
correct.
to
Where
perform at your best, yeah.
So 1 in 5 women are like, I'm out of here, right?
Yes.
I'm not getting the support I need. So there's still a lot of work to do, and I'm encouraged because I'm seeing companies now are interested. I'm seeing things on LinkedIn now that I've finally updated my LinkedIn profile where people are talking
Yes.
about menopause. And I remember I read one where somebody said, is menopause conversation the right conversation to have on LinkedIn? Absolutely.
Yes, it is.
Because it's affecting the
The
workplace,
workplace also, yes.
Yeah, because this is a real thing. It impacts the men in the workplace, the men in the relationships,
And also, how do you get to support a workmate going
Correct.
through the same? A senior manager is going through the same. Your wife, if they are going through the same.
Your colleague, your team member.
Your team member, your
Yeah.
fiance, if you ever date someone who is perimenopause or who is in a perimenopause phase.
Or even post-menopause.
Or
We can get married in our 50s.
Oh, yes. Why not?
Second chance.
Second wind. I call it a second wind. Give yourself
second
a second wind, yes.
So understanding menopause is a societal issue,
Yeah,
right?
it is.
But right now, menopausal women are the most neglected women in healthcare, right? Because the focus is a lot on...
Do we have, talking about that, how is
Yeah.
the medical cover works in terms of supporting the menopause and post-menopause needs?
Yeah. So that's a problem, right?
Yeah.
It's being worked on. So one of the things that I think that companies can do to help their women is also to ensure that the insurance, medical insurance that companies are providing, give women hormone therapy if they choose it.
Yes. Or any other medical support they need.
Or any other support, and then also allowing coaching and support groups and information. Like if you as a company say, part of our wellness program, we're going to talk about menopause, which, as I said, I've done on a couple of companies, that already sends the message that you're being inclusive, that you're worried about retention, that you want your employees to feel like they're,
inclusiveness.
It's inclusiveness, and you're supporting them through wellness, and you care about their needs, and you're listening. And being that proactive employer, it helps in everything.
It does.
So you'll definitely have better retention, better respect in terms of even for other people in the workforce to understand, okay, we have been educated, we need to understand. So that if, I'll tell you the story. There's a young lady who I did a talk, and she came to me, and she's probably like in her early 30s, and she was like, oh my goodness, do you know that I didn't realize that where I work, people are very insensitive to women who are going through menopause, because sometimes we'll come to a room, there's a conference room, and there's a meeting, and somebody has yanked up the AC.
Yes.
Because, and then people will be like, why are you turning up the
It's
AC?
too
It's
cold.
so cold in
Yeah.
here. And she's like, I never thought about it from the other perspective, but the leader who's going to be giving presentation or talking to us may need the room to be cool, because maybe she's having a hot flash.
Oh, yeah.
And she's like, that kind of sensitization is important even in just the company, And, I also say this, where women can feel free to say, guys, I do need the AC turned up, because if you're going to make a presentation, you're probably going to sweat if you're having hot flashes.
Yeah, true.
You dress in layers, maybe be able to, but to have that thing where you say, okay, I may need to make the room a bit cooler because I'm feeling a bit warm, and it's not looked upon like something is wrong with you.
Thank you so much, Amina. This is so instrumental and informative. I would like us to conclude by asking, looking back when you are doing your career choices, your study choices, your marital choices, your everything that evolves through decision making, what would you tell your younger self when it comes to the knowledge that a woman needs in her young age, the intentional decision that we need to make so that later on we have a well-landed transition when it comes to menopause and post-menopause management?
I think the most important thing is just to invest in a good wellness program for yourself, personal health and wellness.
Yes.
Because if you already are in the habit of, exercise, movement, which includes strength training, walking, if you already invest in eating well and understanding, what eating well looks like, if you invest in understanding what your body needs in terms of supplements, doing regular tests, and then engaging in stress management techniques that you learn that become part of your lifestyle, I think that will set you up for success for your transition. And that's what I would want to tell young women to understand, that this is going to happen. And there are things you can do to help yourself or arm yourself so that it's not as difficult as it may be for some of you. But even understanding like your family history, talking to your mother.
Oh, yes.
Talking to your grandmother. It's important to know, because you carry a lot of our fertility is similar to our mother and our
Yes,
menopause journey,
our
but it's not
fertility.
100%
Not-
because you're still also carrying 50% genes from your father's side of the family.
Yeah,
That's number
true.
one. And number two is your environment is different. This is a thing of epigenetics. And so looking at toxic burden, they found that you can have like a more difficult journey if your toxic burden is high, meaning
Yes.
that you're getting toxins from the environment,
Yes.
or how maybe you're not eating very well, and then lifestyle. Like if you are like maybe have a more
Stress.
stressful life than your
Yes.
mother, your grandmother did, maybe you'll go through menopause earlier. Maybe it'll be
Yes.
more difficult,
Yes.
and most likely it'll be more
It
difficult.
will, yes.
So your mother and your grandmother's journey can be a guide in you also learning what they went through, how they experienced it, as part of you arming yourself or learning what to expect as you step into that transition.
Yeah, that's a step. But looking back to the culture,
Yes.
maybe in your generation or
Yeah.
even in my generation, our parents never used to like talking about
Yes.
their period,
Yes.
their fertility issues. There were a lot of stigma around
Yes.
such conversations when people have normalized painful period
Yes.
or irregularity. And it's like, oh, I'm like that. Me, I'm irregular. And you normalize it. No
Yeah,
checkup,
yeah.
no medical support, nothing.
Yeah.
So what would you tell people who see and normalize those irregularities because they are traced in their family line?
Okay. I'm not certain about the question. Can you just rephrase for me?
I'm saying it's growing up.
Yes.
We didn't grow
We
up
didn't talk about
having
periods.
these
Yeah.
conversations with
Yeah.
our parents to get
Yes.
to know like the lineage of
Yeah.
the kind of tracing a behavior or a pattern
Correct.
from the family, like
Yeah.
from your grandma. What was your periods? How were you
Yes.
coping? Are you a regular?
They didn't talk about periods,
Yeah,
period, right?
exactly. So knowing that there is that gap.
Yes.
Now moving forward as us who are now parents
Correct.
nowadays, what are the best approach to even take on our daughters?
Yeah.
Is it something that we can start tracing right now? Is it something does it need a certain age to get prepared?
I don't think so. I think, and that's a very important question, and
Yes.
thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah.
I think for us now, as we're learning more, let's start having the conversations with our children, okay?
Yes.
Even you as a woman going through perimenopause and menopause, you can negotiate for certain things in your family.
Yes.
Because if, for example, and this is part of now you educating your
Yes.
own family.
Yes.
I come from work, I'm very stressed, I need some time, maybe give me an hour. Because if you walk in, you've come from pressure from work, you come home, the kids
What
are
are we
like, Mommy,
cooking?
Mommy,
What
Mommy."
is for dinner?
Yes, and then you now snap, right?
Yeah.
You've just walked into the door. It's like, I don't even have enough time to like put my stuff down. I'm already being bombarded.
Yeah.
So this is the thing. I'm bombarded at work.
Mommy,
I'm
what do
bombarded
you
at
think
home.
of this homework?
Correct. So you could say, when Mommy comes from work, Mommy needs maybe 30 minutes, 1 hour, whatever you need. An hour. Let Mommy, undress, relax,
off,
and then I
yeah.
can come and help you and look at your homework, or we can talk about dinner, and then you can explain later on why. Mommy is going through this transition. It's called perimenopause or menopause. So use the opportunities in life to also educate your children. And because as you're trying to negotiate for yourself or even your partner, like, hey, I'm going through this. I'm not really feeling like it. About your libido, whatever, or I need to go.
Resigning from being a superwoman.
Yes,
Yeah.
I need to take the weekend off. Maybe I want to go away with my friends,
Yeah.
or
just myself.
alone.
Yeah.
Solo time. So as you're explaining these, then you're giving you're teaching your family, you're teaching people around you. I think that's the best way to have this type of conversations.
So the stigma is eliminated from
Yes.
from the nuclear level, from the family.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I
it's like
understand.
experiential. Like
Yeah,
we're
true.
experiencing it. I'm teaching you. I'm telling you. Not to be afraid to say.
Yeah.
And then as you're talking to your children about periods because we were not like I know my generation, a lot of us were not taught about periods,
Yes.
right? So we're now speaking about periods a lot more, learning about it, including period poverty. So you're speaking to your children about their periods. So
Yes.
then you can explain, this is now the end of this, like our reproductive cycle, the periods, this is what it means. Then there'll come a time, like where I am now, when my ovaries are going to stop working. I'm not going to have a period anymore.
Yes.
And this is what it looks like.
Yes.
You know, so that kind of conversation. And just saying, then it takes me to the next phase of my life, which is also a wonderful phase. Because accepting that there's gifts and there's beauty also in
In post.
in being postmenopausal, right? Like I think you're more in touch with what you need. Women are better able at drawing boundaries.
Yes,
Generally,
yes.
you go through this and you're like, I need some time for myself. You're clearer about what you want, and being able to do that, and then really looking at your health and wellness. What am I doing for me? Am I exercising? Am I eating well? Am I sleeping? Am I, taking care of you? You have to invest in it.
I think the generation of women that I've been interacting with in their 50s, you included, are people who are really down to earth. It's like they have experience and they are very intentional on tranquility.
Yeah.
They cannot trade their peace, their
Yeah.
ease against any zero on the check. That's like, okay, at what cost? You negotiate from a point of ease, from a point of comfort, other than what we do in our 20s, in our 30s, where you negotiate by looking at the zeros at the check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's just that you get to the point where you're like, I've been running around helter-skelter.
Yes.
And now it's time to just kind of,
Yeah.
I need to connect back with me and take a pause and see, how do I want to live this next part of my life?
Thank you so much for this wonderful, amazing conversation. I hope you enjoyed as I did. I didn't want this conversation to end. I would like to ask if there is any program that you're running that followers can also get to know. Where can they find you, and which kind of other support you offer, so that they come for help?
Yes. Yeah. So my platform is FAB.U.LAS Living, which is FAB.U.LAS. So it's on peculiar spelling of fabulous.
And we will share the links.
Yes.
Both of your website, Instagram,
Facebook.
Okay.
I also have a Facebook group called
Okay.
FAB.U.LAS Living. It's a closed group, which I have some menopause chats. We used to talk about menopause on there, 3 seasons, and those are available for anybody who wants to go and see the videos.
Do you have to join when you're in that season, or anybody who's
Anybody
interested?
can join.
Okay.
Yeah. But you do need to send a membership request, fill in the questions, and then you'll be approved to join. So FAB.U.LAS Living, Instagram, Mimi Fabulous, that's Amina Farrah, on my Facebook as well, and you can put the links under this podcast. Yes. And if you are really struggling and you need help, just send me a DM and we'll talk further. Because I don't have a program currently running that I'm putting out there. I'm working with women who come to me on a one-on-one basis, but I will be doing a program and a bit later in the year.
Yes.
So I will have your information, then we can talk about that. And I'm also available to come and speak in, corporate settings, offices, groups of women, whoever just needs more information. Because this is actually a big topic. There's a lot more we could talk about.
There is a lot. That's why we could not end easily. And I'm glad and grateful that you watched until this far. And I would invite you to also go and check what she talk about extensively on her page, on her platform that she has shared, and also wish you the good luck on your beginning on living an intentional life. Looking forward that this is a stage that you have to get prepared for, the same way you are doing on your finance, the same way you are doing it on your reproduction system, the same way you are doing it on your career progress. And I hope this is going to help you get motivated, get inspired, and also make the best of the choice that you have to make to live an intentional life. Thank you.